The war on Assange is a war on press freedom. I'm assuming they're referring to Julian Assange and not his evil twin brother, Ray. Ray Assange hates the press. Ray Assange is like, let's just stifle it. Ray Assange read 1984 and was actually rooting for the government. Ray was very confused. Julian tried to talk his evil twin brother out of it, saying, no, man, that's not the way it is. But Ray was having none of it. And, of course, I'm kidding. I don't believe Julian Assange has a evil twin brother. He might have a twin brother. I actually don't know much about his personal life. He may have a brother. I have no idea. But I just made that up. All right. The war on Assange is a war on press freedom. I agree. So let's see what Mr. Hedges is saying here. The failure on the part of the establishment media to defend Julian Assange, who's been in the Ecuadorian embassy since 2012, has been denied communication with the outside world since March and appears to be facing imminent expulsion and arrest is astonishing. I agree. The extradition of the publisher, the maniacal goal of the U.S. government, would set a legal precedent that would criminalize any journalistic oversight or investigation of the corporate state. It would turn leaks and whistleblowing into treason. And who smiled and went along right with this? Barack Obama did. George W. Bush did. Barack Obama did too. And yeah, I know he eventually pardoned Chelsea Manning after torturing her for 6 years. If Assange is extradited to the United States and sentenced, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and every other media organization, no matter how tepid their coverage of the corporate state, would be subject to the same draconian censorship. I don't even know if it would be necessary. I'll say that. Do you guys think the New York Times or the Washington Post needs censorship from the deep state? And when I say needs, I'm not talking like morally. Of course, morally, that's a repulsive idea. I mean needs as in the powers that be would feel the need to do that on them. That's what I mean. My answer to that is no. The Washington Post has never met a war they didn't like. They are certainly very timid to ever criticize someone like a Jeff Bezos, because he owns them. What does Jeff Bezos also have? Contracts with the CIA and weapons manufacturers. Oh, and they hold secret meetings where nobody knows what they talk about. It's not a conspiracy. It happened, and we talked about it on this show. And so do you really think that they need, and I love Chris Hedges' work, but in this particular paragraph, do you really think that's something we should be worried about? Oh, they're going to start censoring the New York Times and the Washington Post. The subversive truth-telling. I understand his point. Like I understand the principle he's getting at. I mean, I think what he's getting at is, that whole, the whole notion, first they came for the socialists, I did not speak out. Or wait, it was trade union, but it doesn't matter. You guys know the quote. But first they came for the whistleblowers, I did not speak out. Then they came for the newspapers, and I did not speak out. Then they came for me. There was no one left to speak out for me. I mean, there was, but everybody was in the chat, so I couldn't hear them. They were chatting like crazy. They were like, they came for Ron. They came for Ron. We enjoy getting our news with a cranky comedian. Helps the coffee go down a little less bitter, and they came for him. Shit. So there are growing signs that the Ecuadorian government of Lenin Moreno is preparing to evict Assange and turn him over to British police. Moreno and his foreign minister, Jose Valencia, have confirmed they are in negotiations with the British government to resolve the fate of Assange. Ecuador has been looking for a solution to this problem. The refuge is not forever. You cannot expect it to last for years without us reviewing the situation. How about you review the situation and put pressure, worldwide pressure, on the United States for a pardon? Why don't you do that? Assange, who reportedly is in ill health, took asylum in the embassy to avoid extradition to Sweden to answer questions about sexual offense charges. He feared that once in Swedish custody for these charges, which he said were false, he would be extradited to the United States. The Swedish prosecutor's office ended its investigation and extradition charge request to Britain in May of 2017 and did not file sexual offense charges against Assange. But the British government said Assange would nevertheless be arrested and jailed for breaching his bail conditions. So they're saying, well, that's a breach of conditions that you didn't show up, even though you knew that if you were going to show up, you were going to be sent to the United States, probably. Wow, that sounds like rock meets hard place to the nth degree. The persecution of Assange is part of a broad assault against anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist news organizations. The ruling elites who refuse to accept responsibility for profound social inequality or the crimes of empire have no ideological veneer left to justify their greed, ineptitude, and pillage. Global capitalism and its ideological justification, neoliberalism, are discredited as forces for democracy, and the equitable distribution of wealth. The corporate-controlled economic and political system is as hated by right-wing populists, I would say that's an oxymoron, by the way, as it is by the rest of the population. This makes the critics of corporatism pretty well. I think that kind of sums it up brilliantly. More brilliantly than I could have. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.